Welcome back. Oh, am I learning a lot? I'm talking with Adele Faber and Elaine Mazlish. Adele and Elaine are two working moms who have a lot of ideas to share with us about how to talk so kids will listen and how to listen so our kids will talk, which happens to be the name of the book that they wrote together. But before we get back into our conversation, let's take a look at what several working moms had to say when we asked them what they did to get their children to listen to them.
I use the mom means business voice, which is do it and do it now, and no ifs, ands, or buts, and she knows I mean it.
It's difficult to get my son to listen to me because he's preoccupied. He's either plugged into his earphones or he's on the telephone or just doing something else. And in that moment, he doesn't want to be bothered.
I use reward and punishment method with my son. If he doesn't listen to me, I'll tell him a few times because I don't like hitting him. And if he doesn't do what's expected of him, something that he wants, I just take it away from him.
I don't want to lay the rap on moms, but are we conditioned to talk to our kids so that they don't listen? You were telling me that.
Oh, we are indeed. We have, it's an old tape that plays through. If you remember back when you wanted to tell your mother something, she'd say, Mom, and she'd say, I'm busy now, or I can't hear. Or if you started to tell her a problem, she would immediately move in and give you advice.
Without thinking about it.
Without thinking about it. You know, as I was watching these tapes, I thought to myself, that's not just them. That's me and thee, may I say, and you too, and you too.
Give us an example of the wrong way.
Well, do you want to hear me before I learn what Elaine and I have learned? This would be a typical kind of conversation between me and my child. My youngster, Elaine, be my child, okay?
Right.
And she comes home and she says,
I hate Grandma.
that is not a nice thing to say.
Well, I don't care. I hate her anyway.
How can you talk that way? Grandma loves you.
Well, I don't love her.
Listen, that is disrespectful. I don't want to hear that coming out of your mouth again. She is your grandmother.
I don't care. I still don't like her.
That's enough out of you, young lady. I think you better go to your room now.
You're not hearing feelings there, are you? Is that it?
That really is it. And as a result, I mean, look what's happened between us. I mean, is she going to come to me with anything that ever bothers her again?
No.
And haven't I convinced you to love your grandmother?
No.
Can you quickly
I
show
don't
us
like
the
you
right
either.
way? Show us the right way.
Okay. Well, one of the principles that we teach is when a child has a feeling, it needs to be heard and listened to and acknowledged, not agreed with. People think it means, you know, if the youngster says, I hate Grandma, that you agree and say, well, you know, I couldn't agree with you more. I never liked the old lady myself. Was hell growing up with her. I mean, we're not talking about agreement. We're just talking about hearing what it is that she's saying. And here's the contrast.
I hate Grandma.
Boy, you sound angry.
Yeah.
Something Grandma did really bothered you.
Yeah, well, every time she comes, she only plays with the baby. And yeah, she always said, hello, sweetheart. Hello, precious.
Oh, and you want her to pay attention to you.
Yeah, and then she brings the baby toys, and then she said to me, when I want to play with it, don't touch it, that's a baby toy. And then she gives me $2 for my bank.
Oh, you don't want it for your bank.
No.
You'd rather have a present like the baby.
Yeah.
Honey, do you sometimes wish it could go back to the way it used to be, when you were the only one?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm so glad you told me how you felt.
Oh, yeah.
Boy, is that a clear example of the difference?
Yes, and
Isn't
the
that a
mother
difference?
who has been working all day, the first tendency is to say, you know, what is wrong with you? That's a terrible thing to say. To take that time to really listen. And I'm thinking of all the mothers listening and watching today and thinking, on top of everything else I have to do, working, and then I have to learn how to speak to my children on top of it.
Well, you know, if we work, we live in a world that's so regimented and we react so quickly. Is that a reason why we often don't take the time?
It's part of it. It's also part of the whole tradition we were brought up in of having our feelings denied. It's foolish to feel that way. You're wrong to feel that way. You have no reason to feel that way. You're too tired. Lie down, you'll feel better. Eat something, you'll feel better. But we weren't reared to be in touch with ourselves so that, Eileen, even when we're upset and angry and resentful, we don't even know how to handle that with the kids because because we talk, what did the woman say earlier? She punishes the child, or one says she uses her top sergeant voice, you do it now.
When I come down hard on my little girl, it isn't because I want to be mean. I guess I feel like if she's wrong and I don't get her that moment, I'm acting in a way, I suppose, out of fear that she might grow up and something might end up being wrong with her.
Yeah, she'll become a criminal or a thief or a liar or a procrastinator
Or just not a
something else.
disciplined person.
And instead, what we want to do, instead of just coming down hard, is to engage a child's cooperation. How do we engage cooperation? How do we invite it? And that doesn't mean like saying, sweetheart, would you mind taking out the garbage? And then the kid says, well, no, I'm too busy now. And then the mother says, oh, that little brat, to herself. And then when the child comes and asks her something later, the mother says, what is it? You didn't take out the garbage later. So to learn how to have clear, open channels of communication.
Let's deal with kids who don't cooperate. Their rooms are a mess. I mean, we all go through it. The garbage isn't taken out.
Eileen, do you know what worked best for me? I mean, when I was just rapping out these short commands, I was getting nowhere. What really worked best for me when I went back to work was to be able to gather them around and just say, look, I've been coming home, I'm tired, I get angry with you when I see things that aren't done. You get angry because you come home tired and you feel that, you need a little rest time. And yet there are so many things to be done in this house. When we sat down, we made a list of what had to be done, and we all scratched our heads and said, how do we do it? And who gets assigned to what? And when they were part of the decision instead of my constantly giving them little electric shocks. Do this, do that, do the other thing. When they were part of the decision, when they made the chart and they decided, that was when we began to move forward as a family. And the other way infantilizes them,
What?
It treats them like children.
It does, doesn't it?
To give orders,
It's like when we give orders and say, you do it or else. Or if you don't do that now, you're going to be in big trouble.
Or you do it because I say so.
Yeah.
And everything that we're talking about today is terribly important to help the working mother, because the more children make choices and the more they can think for themselves, the more mature will be the child whom we leave at home.
You mean I really should say, would you like a half a glass of milk or a full glass of milk? That's a positive
Then
thing.
the child has to think and say, I would prefer a half because, I really don't want to waste milk.
Or to be able to say, listen, this week, do you want to vacuum or do you want to be the one who folds the laundry?
What if there's always a wet towel on the bed after a shower?
You're talking about my house, the wet towel on the bed.
An example.
Oh, an example. What I used to do would come in and say, that wet towel on the bed, darn it, you are going to be punished, and because it's been there 5 times in a row. Instead, to be able to say one word, the towel.
Isn't that nice to be able to, when you're really annoyed about something, you'll be doing no damage. If you yell at the kid and say, you slob, that's like a nice one.
Self-esteem, destruction.
But if I look at you and I say, Eileen, the towel.
I get the message. Actually, your message is a very broad one, and I could probably talk to you for hours, but it is food for thought, especially these days when communication is so important with our kids, teenagers having problems and all of that. Thank you both.
Really. Thank you.
Adele,
Love fun being.